Okay, thank you to the Bowen Islands Arts Council for putting together such relevant questions, and the candidates have answered them enthusiastically. So the last part of our session then, which I think is the more dynamic and interesting, is the series of questions we'll be asking of all the 14 people that we have on stage here in pairs of two. So we'll just be going down the line, and as I pose a question, for instance, Gary will answer first, then Mike will answer the same question, and then we'll switch questions, and Sue Ellen will answer first, and so on down the line. And we'll go back and forth. We should have the opportunity for each, and these are 1-minute responses, by the way. We should have the opportunity for everyone on the stage to answer 4 questions in total, and so you'll get a little bit of variety, but you don't know what it's going to be. Now, just if of course, at some point you have to leave because we're going for 3 hours here in total, by all means, just get up or go in and out as you need to. And I will mention, because we won't really have much discussion at the end, that there is a mayoral candidates discussion on Monday, November 3rd, that would be this Monday, at Cates Hill Chapel from 7 to 9 p.m. So if you want to hear more from the mayoral candidates in particular, in addition to all the other great things that are being hosted in-house and at people's residences, then Monday night will be a great opportunity to do that. So, without further ado then, I'll get my list of questions out here, which none of the candidates have been privy to this point. Gary, what will you do to advance civic facilities? What are your priorities?
What will I do to advance civic facilities? Well, as you know, the Lot 2 is up for rezoning. I think we should, I have no qualms that rezoning should go through. That has to deal with the surplus lands. Until that Lot 2 is rezoned, there is no possibility of a community campus being built there. We deal with City Hall. We should be having some new digs for that. The fire hall has to be rebuilt. It's not earthquake proof. Apparently that's all in the mix right now, looking for a location to do that. That has to go ahead. I believe we also need some sort of a town hall, as it were, where we can have both the arts performing and gatherings, whether it's at either we compartmentalize the community campus, but it's going to be an expensive venture, and we got to figure out some way to do that.
Just 10 seconds.
Thanks, Rod. As far as other civic facilities, there are also infrastructure, of course, concerns that have to be identified and addressed prior to anything else.
Thanks, you, Gary. Rod. Michael, would you like the question again?
Yeah. Sure.
Oh, sorry, no, it's going to go in order.
Michael,
so it's Michael down there. Yeah.
Sorry, Michael.
Yep. What will you do to advance civic facilities? What are your priorities?
I think the issue here is what we define as a civic facility. And my vision of a civic facility is our community hall. I think 4% of the population in a survey said they want a new muni hall, so I'm not sure how that got clumped into the package. So using the words from the Bowen community, from their foundation, of unwrapping these words, let's unwrap all the stuff we've put on top of our community hall and build our community hall first, and then we can look at other things. But that's our priority. It's a community hall to gather, perform, play, not a municipal hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. The next question for Sue Ellen first. We are a municipality within Metro Vancouver. Are you in favor of changing our status in order to become eligible for rural grants and other revenue streams?
Well, that's a good question. If only it were so easy. We're part of the Metro Vancouver Regional District, and we have to belong to some regional district or another. The chances that the Sunshine Coast Regional District would take us in is something that I suppose we could explore. My preference would be to go after that funding through some of the processes that staff are already using to try and get grant money for rural communities, and to use the Islands Trust to try and help us do that. Those would be a couple of the things I would do. I don't really think it's practical to try to leave Metro Vancouver. We're part of them. That's where our ferry goes. But I'd be willing to explore it if anybody saw any good potential in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue Ellen. And Marcus.
Yes, thanks. So the...
Would you like me to reread it?
Yes, please.
We are a municipality within Metro Vancouver. Are you in favor of changing our status in order to become eligible for rural grants and other revenue streams?
Yes. I feel that the independence of Bowen Island is something that we are very strong as a community. And the grants that we receive can come from, I believe, can come from the provincial and federal governments rather than organizations such as Islands Trust or Metro Vancouver. The amount that we spend on those services and the amount we get from other services cancels each other out. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. The next question, which we'll pose first to Yvette. We're going to skip the mayors just for fun. How's that? The next question, which we'll propose to Yvette, is: are infrastructure investments such as water treatment in Snug Cove are necessary, infrastructure investments such as water treatment in Snug Cove are necessary for development on community lands? That was meant to be a question. So are infrastructure investments such as water treatment in Snug Cove necessary for development on community lands? What investments would you prioritize, and how would they be paid for?
When we want to progress on something, then we have to look at what gains and losses we're going to incur along the way. If we want this building or the community center, any sorts of development, then we're going to have to look at how we're going to create that. I think that when I look at a problem, I like to think of the how and look at all the different possibilities around that. Many people have looked at them already, and I would want to gather that information that exists already and go forward with them. Some don't, water and sewer, they're not a choice. We need to have some of that. I understand that there needs to be some upgrades, and we need to look at the whole picture before moving ahead.
Thank you, Yvette. And so, Michael, would you like the question again, or you?
No, that's
Okay.
fine, thank you. No, I'd like to stress that infrastructure is not a choice, and I had an opportunity to speak to some people at the Muni when we were looking at this whole subject of infrastructure, and it's already been mentioned by some of our mayoral candidates, the bigger picture. The fact is we do have aging infrastructure, and whether we like it or not, there's going to have to be considered repairs to that. If we want to develop some of these lands, yes, we're going to have to put in the appropriate infrastructure. I see it actually not as an option. It isn't a might want to do. It's something that we're simply going to have to do if we're going to move forward. So little choice, yes, infrastructure, and it probably isn't going to be a small picture issue. It's going to be a big picture one. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Melanie, how do you see the community library or arts center gallery financed? And should it be in a community campus? If so, why build an addition to the library now?
Sorry?
You want me to read that again?
Yes.
How do you see the community library or arts center gallery financed, and should it be in a community campus? If so, why build an addition to the library now?
My belief, my understanding of the situation now is that the Cove Cultural Corner, that the Library Committee and the Bowen Arts Council have agreed to go ahead with taking that out of the equation and setting themselves up down in the Cove. So I think that's sort of a moot point now. I think that's going to be where those two facilities are. So I think it makes going ahead with the campus idea easier. So I think that's a perfect location for it. I think when you get off the ferry, having an art gallery facility right there is where it should be. And I think we all agree that at the moment, the library is in a very lovely situation. As a parent myself, that's where we go to hang out on a rainy day, and then we go for a little walk. So I think that's a perfect setting, and I don't see it needing to be now moved up to the campus.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. And Allison.
So the question about where the library and why the expansion, I asked when the library board came to us wanting to build the Annie Wood Annex, and my understanding is the library board is quite happy where they are for the fairly long term, and not necessarily wanting to move up the hill to a community campus. And given that, then the idea of combining, having an art space, a gallery down on that corner where people can easily get to it, visiting on the road, is also makes sense. And then the other side is, I believe the commitment that the Arts Council and the library gave to us at the last council meeting was that they would do the fundraising to build these extra expansion.
Thank you, Allison. Maureen, how do you think the public engagement process could be improved? And how can we ensure respectful discourse?
I think one of the most, this is on now, yeah. I think one of the most important things about public engagement is being really consistent in conducting public engagement. When it falls away for a little while, the public begins to feel unengaged. So, for example, I was looking at the municipality's communication policy this morning, and there are a number of items identified in that communication policy that are essentially outreach items, keeping the community informed about activities of the mayor or activities of council and so forth. If you actually start producing material on a regular basis and welcoming feedback and setting up contexts such as town halls, then public engagement becomes a much easier thing to do. As far as ensuring civil discourse, I think we've all had our consciousness raised pretty significantly in the last little while on the importance of civil discourse, and I assume that we will all make a pledge to civil discourse in the future.
Thank you, Maureen. And Peter, would you like the question again?
Sure.
How do you think the public engagement process could be improved, and how can we ensure respectful discourse?
Well, I've been a volunteer on a number of committees, and honestly, the discourse has always been civil there. I know there have been some examples of things we'd rather forget, but for the most part, you know, I place big importance on the committees, and I think there's very, very good work that gets done in these committees, and lots of very, very willing people who bring tremendous skills. I'd like to see more representation, a wider, more representative group of people on the committees, and this is a lot of where work gets done. This is a way for the public to get engaged with the municipality, and I urge people to do that. Of course, not everybody's going to sit on committees, and there's have to be other ways of people getting involved. As someone who's come to council to talk about things that concern me, sometimes I've found I get my 2 minutes or perhaps even 10 minutes to address council, but I don't get answers. And that's quite disconcerting. I'd really like an opportunity for people to get answers from council to things of concern. And so I think the regular town hall meetings that Maureen's spoken about is a very good idea.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, I got it. Okay, George, we're going to give you a sole question here. I would like you to weigh in on how do you envision providing more affordable housing and seniors housing on Bowen Island? What do you define as affordable housing?
What do I define as affordable housing? Well, that probably differs from many of you. I like to use the term affordable rental housing. I'm not in a position where I can own property and land, so, you know, but for me, I would like to see more rental units. And just the first part of the question again, if you could.
How do you envision providing more affordable housing and seniors housing on Bowen Island?
How do I envision it? Well, I don't know. We need to give special consideration to development projects that come our way that have an affordable rental housing, low market housing element in place. And as long as it follows the OCP, I'm willing to support things that the majority of people on this island support as well.
Great. Thank you, George. Now, just so you understand why I skipped the mayoral candidates, I do have some questions that were specifically not addressed to individual mayoral candidates, but rather to mayoral candidates. So I'm going to ask now in this first round the mayoral candidates one of those questions. And I also wanted to comment to all the candidates and to the general public that the questions that we ask will be made available to you, so you can reflect on them in more detail on your blogs or otherwise later on. So then, starting with Stacey, 1 minute please only. How could council improve? What would you do to improve respectful and accessible public engagement on Bowen Island?
My experience with public speaking on the island over the years has been that the more people understand the puzzle, what the whole picture looks like, the less contentious and frightening our issues are. I think the most important thing we can do is to create an environment where the community feels they can ask the right questions or feels that they have enough information to feel secure in decision making as we move forward. I think that it's a two-way street as well, though. I think the community has, you know, if people want to know what's going on, we can provide as much information, whether that's digital or mapping information, but the community also has to get involved. We have notoriously poorly attended meetings all the time. You know, we have an amazing municipal staff. You can go up to Municipal Hall and ask any question you want. The facts are there. Right, that's a great asset for the community. So I think we're lucky to have the level of engagement we do as a community, where the average citizen can appear at a meeting and expect to talk to the mayor or senior staff and get their questions answered. So I think one is to create an environment with more information in it. So instead of looking at our issues in separate compartments, you can look at the puzzle and you can see it all. And so I just think we need more refined information, and the community needs to also come to us.
Okay, time. Thank you. So, Tim, would you like the question again?
No, I'm good,
Okay.
thank you. I have to agree certainly with Stacey that information, communication, education is absolutely essential so that people actually do understand and have accurate information when we go to these meetings. Interestingly, recently at UBCM, I went to a session with small communities and how do you deal with public engagement, and everybody in the room said, town halls don't work. So we have to find a different way to do this, and I think we can look to the Vital Conversations process, we can look to the World Cafe, we can work to other processes that allow us to talk respectfully to each other, but we certainly have to be fully and accurately informed first.
Thank you, Tim. Now, Murray, I'm not going in our pairs here. I'm going to break it up. You're not going to get the same question as those two. Your question is, what mechanisms are necessary to ensure that all major stakeholders have a voice in formulating solutions to important decisions?
Oh, sure.
Only 1 minute, please.
Oh, let me think about this for a minute or two. Yes, obviously. I mean, the trick is, one, identifying who the stakeholders are. Mainly, I think the trick is finding out who's actually interested in something. You know, you get into a thing, for example, where you want to appeal to entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs don't join committees. They're out working, right? So you have to find the thing that's going to turn the people on who should be the stakeholders looking for the solutions. Real quick one, you've got Snug Cove redevelopment, right? So if you live in Blue Water and you commute and you like being on committees, you might be on it. Why not set it up in such a way that the people who work in Snug Cove and deal with Snug Cove every day have an incentive to be on it? So that we're talking about real budgets, so we're talking about real time. I mean, that's just off the top of my head an example.
Okay,
but,
that's about time.
Okay.
Thank you, Murray.